attempting to live stream again with all the buttons and things working on this, I think it's Elgato Stream Deck. Anyway, it's really cool. So it means I can do things like this. I can turn things on and off so that I can control how I record stuff related to my ongoing research, in quotes, because I'm just making stuff at the moment. So some people don't call that research, but it's practice-based research. I've got a book. It's that. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to tell you some of the code that I've been working on for the last, well, too long as ever, and see if I can give you a taster of that. So let's get rid of my ugly mug for starters, and let's get rid of this image, and we should see some code, which is great. So obviously I'm using vue.js to do my project, and so this is I use Vue UI that builds this setup. So obviously we've got the app is our main setup, and here we've got the router setup as well. So that's got these two views, home and about. So if I go to about, there's nothing really there, it's just a page. And if I go to home, then there's a lot more information going on here. And obviously, where is it? Main.js sets up for the router and the store. I didn't really change any of that. And obviously the router sets up the paths. Oh, I'm funny, I keep moving my mouse to the wrong screen because I'm not used to looking in two places and trying to keep an eye on what I'm streaming. Anyway, okay, so the my phone's going off, but that's just telling me that I'm on Twitch. Well, I knew that anyway. So let's go and have a look at obviously the home page, which is the main thing here. So in home, I've got two components, entry form and display text, and so they are here. So the entry form is a basic form, which I'll go through in a minute, and display text is very, very simple. It's getting stuff out of the store to show what is currently in the store using the getters method. So this is very straightforward. So if I switch to Firefox, you can see that the form is just this basic form with a drop-down list and then some buttons here, and obviously it's completely unstyled. Okay, so it doesn't show the mouse, which is funny. All right. Okay, anyway, so let's go back to the code. Oh, this is pretty good. Entry form. So this is the entry form, where it has the option to select your favourite ice cream, and you choose these different options, and these are the values that get placed into the store. And then I'll talk about these buttons in a second. So what we do here is that when the input is changed, we're calling a method here called changed that has an event parameter, which is the target value. So that's this thing, and then it fires this commit into the store. So the store is just your data, but it's being recorded. So Vue stores every single action in the store. So, and the reason I want to do this is because it provides like a really cool undo. So if you look here, every time I change the ice cream that I like, you can see underneath that that is committed to the store, and that history revision is saved, and you can actually look back through these and time travel here. But obviously if you want to display that and use it as like an active sort of history of interactions, which is what I want to do in a bigger sense, then you can't have this, you have to have it coming up in the browser. So so what I do is, the first thing I do is I commit this change state. So this is calling what's called a mutation in the store. So that's a change, effectively a mutation, and it's putting this value in there. So if I go to the store, what you can see here is I've got a basic store set up. Let's get rid of these. Pressing all that. Let's get rid of those lines so they don't make any sense anymore. So I've got a store here. It's got a state. so this is the data, a flavor, which currently starts with nothing, obviously. And then I've got my mutations. I've got two here. One is to change the state. So this takes this state here and puts in the value of flavor, so what's come through. So basically it changes state.flavor to flavor. So that's how we're changing the state. So when I change the state here, that is what's being committed, and you see that they reckon best practice is to have your mutations in all caps like that. So that's what's being called, and you can see that the state is being changed. If I click on these, you can see that the history of those state changes. Go back to the code, and then we've also got this ClearState, which will clear the state and replace it back to null, which I think, if I turn Firefox back on, I can hit ClearState there, and that fires that directly to that button. So if I go back to my code, you can see that in the entry form, I've got here the clear store. It's really clear state actually, because it doesn't delete the store, it just puts a clear into a clear value. And here we can see when I do reset, I do a commit to the store, and in this instance I call the clear state. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward to do in terms of like putting stuff into the store and clearing it. What was a little more difficult to do was how you then go through that history of events. So I did quite a lot of searching around, looking at various different methods. It was quite confusing. There was a few plugins that have been made by people, but they were sort of using them. Well, they weren't even, it wasn't a plugin, it was a mix-in, and so it's just more complicated than it needed to be for me to understand it. So I spent a lot of time just reading the vuex documentation. I watched some LinkedIn Learning vuex stuff. I read a number of Medium articles, posted some stuff on a Discord, a bunch of things to try and figure out what's the way to do this. And so I went round and round the houses. So this again is a way of me reflecting upon what I did and why. So there is now, I added in two other buttons, an undo and a redo button, and they emit that function here emits a redo to the home, which houses both of the components. So this is the parent. So this view is the parent of the components for entry form and display text. And so I've got here is I'm listening for those emits. So when it emits that thing called redo, it will call the method in this thing here called redo, or it will call the method undo. So try to keep the naming the same so that I'm not getting too confused, but obviously it's cascading through using the same function, the same method names. These could probably be functions, but it doesn't matter, I don't think. So that emits, so this here, click calls this thing called undo, which emits a thing called undo. Home is looking for a click emitter called undo, and it calls a method in the parent component also called undo, which I think is maybe a good way of doing it. Okay, so what is this main view doing? Well, this is doing most of the work in lots of different ways. So obviously if you want to just save stuff into the store and clear it, it was working fine with the component here committing to that store, yeah? But what I want to do at this point is I want to have a record of that store, and it seems that this is the best way to do it. So you can and again, I mean, if other people will know better, but from what I understand, this seems to be the best way to do it. So from what I understand is you can subscribe to mutations that happen in the store. So you can basically listen in a subscription way to those mutations that are coming through the store. So again, it seems like a bit of an overkill to subscribe, because what I have to do is I subscribe to those mutations and then I put them into an array, and those arrays are currently called done and undone. That's probably bad names, and that came out from that's one of the tutorials I was working through. it should probably be redo and undo, not undone. Okay, I'm probably going to change that. All the code's on GitLab, so you can look at it, and so there might be some little changes to those because they found a bit weird. But anyway, so what you have to do is I'm basically subscribed to all the mutations, and I push those mutations into those arrays. Now I don't fully understand all of the code that's happening in this piece, to be fair. What I do understand is it's pushing this, what is called a mutation, which is a subscription, so any changes, into this array called done. And then a new mutation is if this new mutation, this, I'm not sure what this piece is doing actually, I can't quite remember, but new mutation gets adjusted here, and that does help with doing, so in this bit, where is it, let's get rid of me, you can't see it, in this piece here, there is this new mutation false and then true, which I'll have to check what that does, but anyway, it's needed. That's all I know. So what happens then is that all these things are being, so every time I'm changing, there being my favourite ice cream, that is being recorded into a database, which is basically saving all the mutations, and it is, when you click undo, it is basically clearing out the store and pushing in the list to the undone list. So it's basically wiping out the store and then putting them, it's taking what already existed in the store and putting it into the array, so that it can then go backwards, so it's got a record of everything previous, which it makes a lot of sense. Feels a bit long-winded, but I guess it's quite complicated to do that. So if we now switch back to Firefox, just to give you an idea, and if I go and select, so you can see here at the bottom these states are being changed. In fact, let me reload just so we can get a clearer view of some of those, because there is a couple of things that are a bit strange. So if I pick vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, then when I undo, it will go back. So what you see is I go undo, and it goes vanilla, strawberry, chocolate. Okay, but you notice here that this it seems to go through a lot more state changes than I was expecting. If I do, let's go vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, and I go undo once, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate. Oh yes, a strawberry, but it's done. I don't know why it's done a few here. Let's have a look. Anyway, but if I then redo, what you're seeing here is it only does one. It's pretty, which is good. So you can go backwards and forwards. I just don't quite understand why it does a whole bunch of clear change, but I think that's because it is clearing. It's probably because it's, there's my entry form. Redo. Okay, so undo calls it undo. Jump back to view. Pushes false. There's a clear state. Then there's a commit. Okay, so that's two things. So that's probably why. Because it's clearing and then committing. Because it's already pushing it's pushing the list of stuff that was in done into the undo list. So that's got a history, effectively. And then it is clearing and putting in the current state, which is cool. The only thing that's a bit weird is I'm kind of like faking the history by creating another sort of store, which is a bit weird. But the cool thing about that is that even though I'm creating maybe sort of almost like another store, so to speak, it means that all of the mutations are still saved in Vue's store itself. So technically, I can see every change that's been made anyway, externally. I was kind of hoping I'd want to have access to that, but maybe you don't. And all the things I read so far seem to suggest best thing is to subscribe to the mutations, put them in something, and then you can do something with it. And the way of doing the undo and redo is you basically are popping and pushing into two arrays, effectively a history of that stuff, which is quite cool. So yeah, quite like it. Seems to work, which is good. So thank you so much for listening to my stupid Twitch stream. I don't actually, does it even, I don't think OBS tells me if there's anyone watching, so I wouldn't even know. Probably wasn't anyone, but I'm gonna have to figure out a way to have a button on here to trigger a little music. Surely that's got to be the next thing. I kind of almost want to do it now, but I'll break things if I do properly. So let's just have a look. What have we got? Stream. No, not that. Get rid of that. OBS is pretty cool, I have to admit. Media source. It's probably another local file. Let's have a look. Don't even know what I've got locally on here. Let's see what it will do. Suppose it'll probably get the whole thing banned. Oh no, okay. Okay, so all these files are probably not allowed. Ah. Okay, close, media source. Oh, is that playing now? Because it probably shouldn't have just done that automatically, but it looks like it might be. I can't hear it. It's probably really loud. So, turn that off. Yes, look at that. Okay, thanks for listening. I'm now going to press the media source button again just for fun. Okay, see you all later. And that is Death Burger, is it? VHS glitch.